Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining this edition of Disaster Hack. Let's go. So, today we're going to visit the subject of evacuations. This is a very essential function in emergency management. Reflect for a moment on Hurricane Ian in Florida. 114 people died, and most of them perished because they did not evacuate. So, we're going to look at evacuations in terms of why they immediately occur after warnings and the fact that they may occur well after a disaster takes place as well. We're also going to look at the different contexts in which evacuations occur. Our learning objectives are to comprehend the concept of evacuation, explain why we care about this function, explore two types of evacuation, and reveal the principles that will help us conduct evacuations successfully as we go forward. An evacuation may be simply defined as moving from one dangerous area to a place of safety and refuge. When speaking of evacuation, we need to keep in mind that there's two types, a vertical evacuation and a horizontal evacuation. Moving up the stairs or to the roof due to a flood or a fire is an example of a vertical evacuation, and this can be helpful, but in addition it could be dangerous if water or smoke or fire rises. The second type is a horizontal evacuation where we're moving away from a dangerous area, for example, inland from the coast in the case of a hurricane. In terms of emergency management, when we're trying to move people to safer areas, we should keep in mind the different means of evacuation. First of all, people can simply use their feet and walk to a safer location. Also, people can drive their cars or trucks to a place of refuge. We can move many people through the use of a bus or a train. In some cases, boats could be used, as we saw on 9/11, and this included the largest waterborne evacuation in history, moving perhaps 300 to 500,000 people to safety. In addition, we may fly people to safer locations through the use of helicopters and planes. Up to this point, some people may have the impression that evacuation is fairly straightforward and easy. We simply warn people and they leave. In some cases that may occur, but it's actually far more complicated than that, and there's many reasons based on the research literature why people don't evacuate. First of all, some people never get a message to evacuate. They're not warned. In other cases, they misunderstand the warning message, or they think it won't be that bad. Some people don't leave because they want to protect their property. Elderly people don't want to evacuate because it's too hard on them physically. Sometimes the size and makeup of the family has an impact. For instance, a single person or people without family members and children won't leave because they feel like they can ride out the storm by themselves. In other cases, family members won't leave because they're missing their relatives, or they won't leave because they can't take their pets with them. If people's neighbors don't leave, they won't evacuate as well. In other cases, their experience or education may have an impact on evacuation. For instance, if I'm from New York and I move to Florida, I won't really understand hurricanes or warnings and evacuation routes and where to go for shelter, so I won't leave. Sometimes the type of housing has an impact. If I live in a regular house, I may not leave, whereas if I'm in a mobile home, I'll be more likely to leave. People fear the inconvenience, the time that will take to evacuate. In other cases, they are worried about the time it will take to get back into the area and resume their normal life. And then finally, some people may not have money, and so it's impossible for them to evacuate. They don't have a car, they don't have gas money, they don't have money for hotels, and they don't leave. If we're considering issuing an evacuation order, we definitely need to understand human behavior, but we also need to make good decisions. For instance, we need to understand the risk. How bad is the hazard? What's the probability of the hurricane hitting or the probability of a tornado striking our community? What are the consequences of a fire? We need to think about those things. There's various computer programs that can help us in that regard, such as HAZUS, Cameo Aloha, Slosh, and others. We can rely on meteorologists or the opinions of politicians and political leaders, whether it's the mayor, the governor, the president, or even the FEMA administrator. We also need to think about clearance times. It's not easy to evacuate people, and it does take time. In fact, it could take 12 hours or 24 hours to get people out of harm's way based on the number of people and the evacuation routes that exist. So that has to be taken into consideration as well. Even though evacuation is fairly complex and does require some careful decision making, there's a few measures we can take to make sure it's successful. We need to simply make the decision to evacuate. We notify the population, hopefully with enough time so they can leave. We need to share some guidelines and instructions on where to go and how they should leave. We need to provide some resources, whether it's additional fuel or some vehicles and expertise in case cars break down. We need to direct traffic and implement contraflow. In this case, we're reversing some of the lanes to increase our capacity to get people out of town. We want to ensure compliance and safety, monitor our progress, and share information about when people can return when it's safe to do so. To recap what we've covered, there's two types of evacuation, vertical and horizontal. We need to understand human behavior and predict why people won't leave and try to overcome some of those challenges. We also need to implement evacuation as soon as possible and make sure that we're providing resources, whether it's information or oversight or assistance, as people leave and evacuate. If you're interested in further information, I've provided one of many important articles that are out there. Hopefully this will help you to understand some of the issues and concerns and recommendations regarding evacuation. Thanks so much and have a great day.